Hey everyone, this is David Jelks here, and I want to touch on something very briefly on the concept of self-image. And of course, being in the fitness industry and as my chosen industry, that's really the biggest conversation we end up having. People don't want to necessarily do workouts simply because they want to feel better. People want to look better. And that's why the crazy dieting stuff kind of takes over, where people will stare themselves down so they look a certain way. But at the end of the day, we really want to feel a certain way. And fitness and health is all about kinesthetics, right? It's all about how feeling. Either we feel good, we don't feel good. We feel like we're in shape, or I don't feel like I'm in shape. People very seldom say, I want to look in shape. It's no, I want to feel like I'm in shape. I want to feel my body. So when we look at that whole concept of feeling, what we're really talking about is an experience inside the body, which is a kinesthetic experience, which means it's a feeling experience. Our senses are giving our brain a reference of how we may look underneath our skin. So the challenge being is that normally when we come into exercise programs and dietary strategies, we come into it with a preconceived idea of our rate of success, or the potential for success for us in this endeavor. And quite often, of course, our success historically hasn't been that great. Partially because, one, we didn't know what we were doing. We were using bits and fragments of advice and knowledge, but we didn't really use the whole picture. One, of course, we didn't know how to train, and of course our training was based on the well-meaning advice of others in magazines and books. And thirdly, our diet was, of course, was not representative of what we were trying to accomplish. We're eating healthy, but it wasn't specific enough to what we were trying to accomplish. And of course, when you go through all the history of our challenges with trying to get in shape, trying to look a certain way, trying to overcome injuries, and all the stories and all the dialogue that accumulates over time, when we go to try something new, guess what happens? The echoes of yesterday show up, and they keep telling us, reminding of us our potential for success, which, of course, unfortunately, the potential that may show up in front of us really is related so much to our history. And that just means that history repeats itself if we keep using history as a method of predicting our future. Sound confusing? Well, really, at the end of the day, all it is that, and I've talked about this before, if you listen to me and various little podcasts and what have you, that all we can do is reference history. That's all we can do normally. If I want a different result, I have to actually think quite a bit differently. And the challenge I'm facing, and that we all face, is that we need a blank spot in our mind to start predicting what it is that we want. Meaning that, we can't sit back and think about, 1972 and the struggles we had, or 1996 when you had your first child, you couldn't get rid of the last 20 pounds. All that information is irrelevant. All that's relevant now is, what do we choose now? And what information going forward from this place today, going forward, what information do we need to accept, utilize, and follow through on to make sure that we get a different result? And the only reason that we keep seeing patterns repeat is that, well, we keep repeating the patterns, right? Not very complicated. And again, I know it's challenging because we don't often, in this day and age, take the time to sit down and really process on how we're actually working inside of our mind. So when I want to imagine, who I wish to be, so for example, in 2016, I wish to compete again as a natural bodybuilder, but I need to be I need to be a lot leaner, and I need certain body parts to come up. I need my legs to come up. I need my shoulders and upper chest. So what I do is I go through and I look for images of individuals that are about my height, kind of look like me a little bit, but have the physique that I want. They had that nice upper chest development. They have that shoulder and leg development that I'm looking for. Really good symmetry, kind of looks like me, looks about the same torso length. And when I look at the individual, I try to find any videos they may have created. And when I start tracking them down, I look at their mannerisms, and I look at how they train and how they carry themselves. And you can find training videos, probably lots of YouTube videos, on individuals, these role models, these physical role models for you that you want to emulate. Now, I use that because my brain needs an idea of what it looks like to have what I don't already have. Sometimes our imagination is just not good enough, and I can't imagine what it would be like to look like this because I've never had it. So I need to go and source out the information. So my brain goes, that's what you meant. You want to look like that, right? You want to look like him, you want to look like her. So now that my imagination has somewhere to go, then when I go into training, what I do is I take that idea, that new visual construct of that individual, and I let them sit in my mind. So when I go do my leg day tomorrow, I got squats, I got a big factor 3 leg day, which is really tiring, and I almost always oppose it mentally before I get in there, because I know what kind of work what kind of work is in ahead of me. I take a few moments, and I have the little video of the individual on my phone, and I watch him work out, and I watch him go through his stuff, right? And now I'm in that mindset. So when I step underneath that squat rack, guess who I am? I am him for all intents and purposes. And I'm thinking like him, and I'm training like him, and because I want to be like him. I want that physical stature that he attained, that I'm looking for. So I'm giving my brain a roadmap. So again, we can't use their historical references if they're not adequate, and if they're full of misery and failure and just self-sabotage. It just doesn't work. It's really a bad map. So why would you use that again? It doesn't make any sense. It's like trying to make your way across Canada using a map created by the voyageurs, back in the 1800s. Doesn't work. It's an old map, and you won't get to where you want to go using an old map. So these are neural maps inside the brain. We have to build new neural maps. So if you're an athlete and you want to get to a certain place, then how do you do that? Were you there before? Then you have to reuse that map to get you forward. If it's fitness or just general weight loss, just go find the experiences in somebody else if you haven't had that experience yet. Because how can you design something you've never owned? Right? That's the whole idea of vision boards, to imagine. But it's not just a matter of having the vision board on the wall and you look at it every so often. You have to actually spend some time sitting in front of that bloody thing, looking at it and imagine what would it feel like, and look at the physique, and look at the achievement, and look at the weight loss, and look at the, winning the gold medal, look at standing on stage, winning that trophy. What would it feel like to be in that physique? What difference would it make in your life? How would it affect your relationships? How would it affect your career? How would it affect everything? And you give it time, and you create this thing called structural tension inside the brain that I referred to before. And that structural tension is going to force your behavior to change over time. So all of a sudden it becomes very natural for you to be like that. It becomes very natural for you to train like that. It becomes very natural for you to eat like that. Right? Because you've actually taken the time to develop the structural tension in the brain and created a map and a set of guidelines for your nervous system to follow. Otherwise, what are you using? You're using the maps of the past, and you're going to leave from one part of Canada, trying to get to the next, end up in Tuktoyaktuk because you used the wrong map. And where you really wanted to be was in here in beautiful Vancouver Island with the rest of us enjoying our fall season. So you know what I'm talking about? So it takes a bit of time, and the frustration, and every time you get challenged, and every time you're upset, and every time you're beating yourself up, stop. Just stop. Take a deep breath and ask yourself these questions. What I'm thinking about, the stuff that's frustrating me, how do I represent that in my mind? And the reason why I ask that is that if you look at, let's say if I look at back, and I've often talked about my drowning experience just because it was a very powerful one in my life. And when I think about it, it's an image first, it's a feeling second, and it's an auditory piece third. Right now as I think about it. So as I observe my thoughts, I become the mindful observer, the witness to my thoughts. I'm not inside the context of my memory, right? Which means I don't have the crippling emotions that come up generally if I just step right into the memory and just feel what I felt back then all over again. Like, isn't that just lovely, right? Just to continuously shoot yourself in the foot over and over again. It wasn't bad enough the idea happened once. It wasn't bad enough you brought it up twice. It's just complete lunacy to keep bringing it up over and over and over again just to relive the pain and the frustration of that time. Really, animals don't do that. I think animals have it all figured out. They just run instinct. They just know, I got to go that way. Right here, right now is not so good. So we have that power. So remember, again, the real trick of it, of this whole process is, one, step out of your memories, observe the thought process, and saying, what I'm struggling with now, not the content, the story, but what is the context? Is it an image that I'm seeing, and then is it what's being said that bothers me? Or is it just a picture that bothers me? Or is it just a feeling? Is that what really bothers me? And look at the context on how you think and how those memories are coming back. Because once you observe it, then you can decide, well, if the image bothers me, then I'm going to fade the image. If the sound bothers me, I'm going to change the sound. I'm going to put little tinking bells or a big woogle horn in the middle of it just to alter the sound, right? If it's a feeling, then I'm going to try to dissipate the feeling by pumping helium into the room, and it makes the feeling go very light. we have an amazing brain, amazing nervous system. Sometimes we have a limited understanding of how to control it. But vision boards work well. Make sure you put it down in front of you, look at it, and then actually get into the vision, meditate on what it would be like, to have have that experience, to have that physique, to have that life, to have that gold medal, to that winning trophy. What would it be like to have that life overall? Right? You have to imagine it so your brain goes, oh, that's what you meant. Okay, I didn't know. I just saw this little flicker of an idea, like buying a lottery ticket, hoping it works, but there was no investment of time and effort. And the brain needs that structural tension to move your life forward in the direction of the dreams you always imagined. All right, so have an amazing week, and let me know how this applies to you, and if it does. But do the work. It's an amazing tool we have above our neck, and all the problems are from the neck up, as you know. All right, take care.